So where are you from? Tennessee. Okay, then where are your parents from? Tennessee and Mississippi. Yikes, where are your grandparents from? Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama. Okay, where are you really from? Okay, if you want to know where my ancestry is from, you can just ask that. Oh, then where does your ancestry come from? West Africa. Oh, which country? Okay, so during the time of chattel slavery, there were no established countries in Africa yet, so enslaved Africans were being brought from different regions and tribes in Africa. Then which region? West Africa. Oh, so like Ghana? Again, Ghana was not established at that time, so there is no specific country that we can pull from. So if there is no specific country, then that would just make you American, no? So I actually can be Black, African American, and American. That's one's a race, one's an ethnicity, and the other's a nationality, and you would know the difference if you actually paid attention in school.
The liar knows what lie he told. You see what I'm saying? So even if I made it deceitful and I made you think that the answer is over here, but the answer is really over here, I'm still gonna be looking over here. Me, the one that tricked, because I know this is the right answer. Black people have lost their identity, but our oppressors have not lost our identity. That's just why they chopped those noses off of the Pharaoh and the Sphinx in Egypt in the first place. Is because without this nose, we can tell you this is whoever it is. But with that nigga nose, it can only be niggas.
Rich drop.
Yo, so we back in here for another edition, and this is actually part 3 on Why We Not African. Now, that narration was done by Cat Williams from Club Shay Shay, so don't flag me using it as a composition to the episode. What I will say is he's right. The reason they tell you that you're from Africa because they stole the land here, and if they steal the land, it would behoove them to tell you you're from some other place than to think that you're from here, because if you find out you're from here, then you would feel like you have some ownership more so than they do to the land. And since they got all these get land for free, no credit down, and all these scams on the internet, yeah, it's in their best interest not to tell you the truth. Aside from the fact that all these sculptures and stuff, they knocked the nose off, that's a matter of debate. Maybe they did knock the nose off, maybe that part of it eroded, or a combination of both. I wasn't there, so I don't actually know, but taking an educated guess, I'm a side with Cat Williams or any other black person that makes this notion, because I don't believe in coincidences. Now, you see the Sphinx, these statues, these pharaoh temples, like you always see the nose is knocked off. I don't think after you start seeing a pattern, shit's not a coincidence, especially when you have stuff like the Olmec statue with the big wide noses. Now a lot of people are gonna say, well, that's in South America and those people aren't technically black. And I don't think a lot of people know what black is. Like in the modern world, people just designate black to African or black American. They don't realize that roughly about 350 years ago, most people in brown nations like the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, all the islands, South America, any place, Bolivia, Chile, Ecuador, Brazil, every place that there wasn't a European, the people were actually dark skinned. There were people my complexion are lighter. That's actually a relatively new phenomenon. And when I say relatively new phenomenon, that's like a phenomenon in the last 150 years. Before black people, 150 years, black people didn't like typically commingle with Europeans. One, not because they didn't want to, but because there weren't Europeans in proximity to dark-skinned people. First of all, like up until I want to say, up until about the 1600s, European people were relegated to a very small part of Europe. You didn't have a lot of fair-skinned people in Greece, a lot of fair-skinned people in Italy. I mean, hell, the fair-skinned people you do have in Italy, that's commingling from 7-Eleven. But mostly all in all, like what are we talking about here? Italy's a relatively small place, designated to close proximity to Europe. So yeah, there wasn't white skinned people in Kazakhstan. You know what I'm saying? There wasn't no, like, Polish is relatively new. Czechoslovakia, the Soviet Union. It's actually a relatively new thing. When I say relatively new thing, like the last 200 years. Before that, people probably were dark skinned. Europeans were still eastern Georgia, near the Caucasus Mountains. What are we talking about here? Those people in India weren't fair skinned because there wasn't British influence. All the Burmese people were dark skinned. Yeah, if you see pictures of people during what's his name, Gandhi's time, most of the Indian people in the background are dark skinned. Pakistani people, same thing, dark skin. China, brown to dark skin. That's actually a relatively new phenomenon because of British influence. What are we saying here? A lot of people, they don't understand that black is not necessarily just American or African or Caribbean. Black once upon a time was the whole planet. Well, majority of it. Hell, there's people in Guatemala that are darker than me. They speak the colonizers' language, Spanish. But before that, they were darker than me and they spoke their indigenous language. You know what I'm saying? The Oaxacan people near the Yucatan Peninsula. Those people are dark as hell. I mean, that technically is what black is. If we want to go by what black is, one, black and white are just skin complexions, racial categories based off of your skin color. Now, black people use the term black as an ethnic descriptor and ethnic identifier along with a racial category. But just as a racial category, somebody from Mexico doesn't use it as an ethnicity because their ethnic background is actually Latino, Hispanic, but their racial category is black. So yeah, I don't think people have a firm grasp on what black is. And because most people don't read books, namely clear people, they don't really make a distinction. You know what I'm saying? Or they make a distinction when it suits and when it's convenient. If you tell a white person that a black skinned person from Mexico and the Yucatan Peninsula, the Oaxacan people are black, they say, oh, well, no, they're Mexican. Because they speak another language and they have a different cultural heritage. Still a black skinned person. But never mind logic getting in the way of bullshit. I hope I further explained that and clarified that. If I didn't, I might have fucked up along the way, but you should have been able to pick up what I'm putting down. In any event, I'm out.